Bryan, I'm glad to rejoin you on this episode of the Burna Bros podcast. I've been traveling, or you've been traveling, so it's good to be back on camera together. And today's topic really is about, we do have a special guest, but this guest doesn't speak; it fires. So the Burna CL is out. This is my CL with the laser. May 1 is the official day that customers can get it everywhere. Dealers, Sportsman's Warehouse, Byrna.com. And as you know, Bryan, as I would describe it, it's like giving birth. If there was a give, if I understood the pains of giving birth, this is very close to that because we put a lot of work into it, and it was a vision that was 4 years in the making, and here we are. Can you believe it?
Yeah, no, it's been a labor of love. I will tell you, Luan, from the date that we introduced the very first Burna HD, we've been getting customers asking us for a smaller launcher. So when we developed the Burna HD, which later became the Burna SD, this is the size of a compact handgun. So across the barrel, it's the same as my Glock 19. Down the grip, it's the same as the Glock 19. It is a little bit wider. It's almost an inch and a half wide because it's a 68 caliber round. And it became difficult to conceal carry. It became difficult for women sometimes to get their hands around the trigger. And you can see if I put it in my jacket pocket, you can see that I have it. It's not possible to conceal carry. So we've been working on the new smaller compact launcher, which if I put in my jacket pocket, you can see that it's
You
not
can't tell.
noticeable.
There's no printing, and you know, uh, it's hard for people to tell how tall I am. But I'm all of a 5'6.5", and I was never able to comfortably conceal the SD. And now I feel that this is the perfect complement to my Sig 365 when I carry both. But it is so good, and not just because we work here. Is that we've seen and prayed and wished for it to finally arrive. And as you are aware, my initial concerns is if we're going to bring this down, we still have to deliver on our promise of stopping power. Because if
Right.
this thing was small and it hits small, then we don't want to risk any of our customers' lives over it. And boy, did this thing change my mind. I'm blown away by the power.
So what are the questions that we're getting now that it's getting out in the market? I know that a lot of people are starting to look at this, talk about this. We've really created a buzz with the Burna CL. A lot of it positive, but there have been some people, raising questions. What have they been?
So I think the biggest debate, if you will, was pointed at marketing. So a lot of it was probably pointed at me for trying to be the slickster. That's where we introduced our measurement of pound per square inch.
Yeah,
And
energy density instead of
yes,
just pure joules.
and when you look at it, you think, okay, why are they changing the measurement? But we have to because it's a different size round, and you have to articulate it in a different way. And so it was cause for confusion. But what I love about Burna Nation now is that these guys are doing these YouTube influencers like John Reynolds. He's out there scientifically breaking it down and really accurately. So we're still need to have that discussion to explain to folks like this is a different type of measurement, and we're really breaking the mold not only with this launcher and this ammo size, but really getting the whole industry to rethink the joule conversation.
Well, it's interesting because I think some people do miss the fact that even based on joule energy, the joules of this CL are 20% higher than the joules of our iconic Halo SD. So, just to set the record straight, our SD is approximately 10 joules of energy. Our LE, which we brought out 2 years ago for, a very, very powerful gun, you can see it's a much, much larger gun. This is 15 joules of energy, but the CL falls solidly in the middle. It is 12 joules of energy. But the interesting thing about it is it's 12 joules of energy with a smaller projectile. So joule energy is calculated as 1/2 m, half mass, times velocity squared. So the speed is much more important, and this shoots, really fast.
So I would say you're much more a mathematician than I am, but I know that's all great and dandy. We talk about science and joules. I'm here in Las Vegas in our store, and they come in and ask that question. It's like, let's not pull out our calculators. Let's go to the shooting lane. And when they see that 61 caliber kinetic round hit that 24 gauge metal sheet, and it creates this impact sound and this massive dent, are we still talking about calculators and joules, or is that convincing enough for you? So yes, we get it. We have to have science and all that, but I'm a show and tell type of guy. And I challenge all those people that are going to the whiteboard respectfully to go shoot this thing. We have hundreds of locations for you to shoot at. Shoot it and come back and tell me if that isn't convincing enough for you to stop a bad guy.
Okay, so for the mathematicians out there, and since I was kind of a math geek growing up, the concept is simple. If you have the same amount of speed and mass, but it hits in a much smaller point, it has a lot more force. It's much more painful. So, the size at 61 caliber is, approximately 10% smaller contact area. The other thing to keep in mind, though, because we did get a comment last night that, well, if that's the case, then look at Umarex's 43 caliber, because if you figure out the energy density, you've got, a number even higher than the Byrna CL. What about that? Is that true? It is true. So as you get smaller and smaller, the energy density increases if you have the same amount of force. But the problem is a 43 caliber round is 75% smaller in volume than a 68 caliber, which means it's fine as a kinetic round, but there's no payload capacity. And the other thing is, as you start to get smaller and smaller with that same amount of force, you run the risk of breaking skin. So then it gets beyond this, no permanent injury claim that we have for the CL.
I mean, I've seen as you know, we have an employee here that's very hardcore, and his name is Cyrus, and he's shot himself, and he had other people shoot it independently, not by us, ask him to do that. And he decided he wanted to get shot by the CL, and one shot was all it took for him to say never again.
And Luan, I know that everybody's been telling me no, but I'm going to get shot with this thing. I was one of the first to get shot with the Burna HD. And if you go on to our website, you can find a video of me about 4 years ago, jumping up and down, screaming, choice curse words, because it hurt like hell. And I really want to see what the difference is. It left a bruise on my leg like this. Yeah. That was one of the original HDs, and the joule energy was down around 8. Yeah. The joule energy of this is up at 12, and the energy density is up around 41.
I don't recommend you getting shot by the CL, but if we do it, we should put it into bid. So, maybe we can raise some money for the person that gets to pull the trigger.
Well, there'd be a very long line of people wanting to pull the trigger.
We can do it for a good cause.
Yeah, we might as well raise some money for charity if we're going to do that.
But I think of course we're going to get that, and we respect all the people that want to understand the science, and we celebrate that, because that means they're engaged, they're leaning in, and they're very passionate about the less lethal category. But overall, this has been, from what we're monitoring on social and what people are saying independently, it's been the CL has been embraced with open arms, and it was the launcher that everybody's been waiting for. And it was like, oh my gosh, aliens are real, and so is the Burna CL.
Well, I mean, the thing that you said to me, which has really stuck with me, Luan, is we need people to carry it everywhere they go. And there was an interesting video put out by East Coast Less Lethal, where he's saying it doesn't matter if you've got a 357 Magnum if you never carry it. Better to have a 22 in your pocket than to have a 357 Magnum back at home.
Yeah.
So my feeling with this is that people can carry it everywhere they go. Yeah. And that's going to make a big, big difference. I mean, I always worry about, if I'm not carrying, is that going to be the one time where I really need that insurance?
Yeah.
So, I carry everywhere I go because I'm constantly afraid that, I'm going to be out with my daughters and be in an altercation where I need to protect myself. I need to protect my girls. I need to have my Byrna.
Yeah. So so people understand. I always say like the Burna CL is our Apple iPhone moment, and so they're gonna carry it with them. But I just want to show folks this is my iPhone, and there
Yeah,
she
that's really
is.
amazing.
And look, it is so amazing. And I put my iPhone in my pocket, my pants pocket. So that's the reality. And for us, for Burno, the reason why it took so long is because it was not easy to get this device to this size. It's revolutionary, and it is, from my perspective, the smallest, less lethal launcher out there. And it's I feel like I'm a kid on Christmas.
It was interesting. Somebody was talking about Byrna isn't the first one to develop this pocket size CL. Grimberg is out there with their new launcher. I know Kurt from Grimberg. I had lunch with him the other day. Phenomenally good guy. He's right up the street from us in Maine, and he builds a great launcher, $650, and the waiting list is 6 months. But it is not the same size as a CL because it still uses that 68 caliber round, which means it has to be wide. So the issue with the basic Burna is just the width of it. This is just too wide to easily conceal carry. If you go down to the CL, you've got something that is really thin. And I think that makes all the difference in the world is the ability to carry it. We're going to be putting together videos. I know you're working on them now that do three things. They show the concealability. This is easy to conceal carry. They show the effectiveness of this, both for kinetic and for the payload rounds. And they show the value proposition that you can take this with you everywhere.
It's interesting you mentioned East Coast less lethal, and he has a bunch of different options, and he's like, he was on the fence, and they're like, I'm just gonna jump in. It sounds too good, and he said something very poignant in his video, and he says, I carry lethal, but like a toolbox, I just can't have the hammer. I gotta have a
Yes, I
screwdriver.
love
I
that
have
analogy.
And that has been our perspective, right? You can not one tool solves every situation. We talk about this a lot. So we have seen video that someone gets shot with a 9 millimeter round. They're still mobile, right? Unless you get a headshot that takes them out. But on the most part, like each tool has its perspective. And for me, as a 2A guy, this will slow the attacker down. Then I prove escalation of force, and then I can transition to my lethal, and they'll give me time to transition to my lethal before I make a fatal mistake.
Well, I'll tell you a secret. I'm a gun guy, not at your level. I only have a handful of firearms. I think you've got a whole basket full of firearms, but I I still carry a firearm in every car. So, I have a Burna less lethal device in every car too. And I'll tell you a secret. I also have bad guy repellent because if some guy is coming right to my window and he's hassling me, I don't want to shoot him in the face, even with a Burna, but I will have him back off with the bad guy repellent. If I need to, I can escalate to the Burna, and God forbid I really need to, I can escalate to my Glock 19 or my Smith and Wesson.
So with every video or every new launch, there's always what I call the Easter egg. And what's the Easter egg of the Burna CL? And for me, and I recommend that anyone tries this, practice safe weapons, protocol, is pre-puncture on the CL has been mind blowing. Meaning, like the first shot of CL, the first round is going to come out slower because the gun's pressurizing, but you can ensure the first round comes out 100% hot. Is pull the trigger halfway in, and when you hear the click, let go, and then pull her all the way back. And that moment, I think I just punctured my CO2. I can hear it.
Yeah.
That this round is going to come out 100% hot. And
Yeah, that's really
game
interesting.
changing.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. So, on our existing launchers, we had the safety. So it's an ambidextrous safety. The interesting thing was we told people if you put it on safe and pull the trigger, you will pre-puncture the CO2. Because what happens is as you pull the trigger and puncture the CO2, the valve starts to fill up. On the first shot, it only gets about 80% full.
Yeah.
So right now on the Burna SD, our top speed for that after the trigger pull is around 280 feet per second. The first shot's around 220 feet per second. On the CL, the first shot's around 250 feet per second. The second shot is up close to 400 feet per second. And then you're averaging over the first 10 rounds about 350 feet per second.
Yeah.
But if somebody does exactly what you did, Luan, their first shot will be 400 feet per second.
Oh yeah, and so like I think I shared that with John, and he was like, "That's fantastic." And I think I highly recommend people try it, do it, practicing safety protocols. But you're gonna be blown away, and if you know they're gonna be in a situation where it's gonna go down, and you want that first shot hot, remember, pull it like that, and then it's probably about 75% depressed, the trigger. And then
and you'll feel it. You'll know when you're puncturing that. Anyways, Luan, I can't tell you how good it is to catch up with you. We're planning on having a town hall with some of these influencers where they can ask questions.
So we're inviting a couple of key folks, and like Burna, we pride ourselves on being very transparent. This is a serious business, personal safety, and we take the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we try to work and communicate as a community that believes in less lethal. I think we all are working to change the world, even with our competitive brands. I think, the more visible this category is, the better chance we have of getting folks to, go less lethal before going to lethal. So the town hall, we're still getting everybody's schedules together, and we should have that event within a week or so, and then share it out to Burna Nation.
Good. And maybe, if you're listening to this podcast and you have a question, please send it to us and we will include it in the town hall. This is a revolutionary new product. We are the first ones to go to 61 caliber. It did not exist prior to us. We think 61 is optimal. We think 50 and 43 are too small. We think 68 is too large just because you can't get the size of the launcher small enough. But because of that, there's a lot of questions, and we welcome your questions. And if you just reach out to Burna or to Luan or to myself, we will get these questions answered.
And to all the math geeks out there, drop the calculator. Just come pull the trigger. Tell them the Burna Bros sent you, and you're going to be pleasantly surprised. I promise.
Well, it's good to see you, Burna Bro, and I'll catch up with you on the next podcast.
All right. See you, Bryan.
Take care.